Doctor Who Series 3 Episode 10 Blink is one of the most iconic Doctor Who episodes ever, and the story barely features the Doctor or the companion, and in today's video we're going to be speaking about why this makes the episode so iconic. The elephant in the room when discussing this episode is this is the first ever episode to feature the Weeping Angel. When you look at the Weeping Angels, they're just statues and nothing more, but when you take your eyes off them or blink, they're alive. And when you're not looking at them, they can zap you back in time and feed off your time energy. After the episode Blink got so popular, the Weeping Angels became a mainstay in the show, becoming one of the most iconic villains ever to grace the screen for Doctor Who. The Weeping Angels as villains for the show have been painted scary, and that's what makes them so good in Blink, because Blink is a Doctor-like episode. A Doctor-like episode is a episode that doesn't feature the Doctor too heavily.
I can't.
Fascinating race, the Weeping Angels. The only psychopaths in the universe to kill you nicely. No mess, no fuss, they just zap you into the past and let you live to death.
In this episode, the Doctor and Martha had been zapped back in time. They don't have the TARDIS, and that's why they need to use Sally Sparrow. Sally Sparrow is the main character or the main protagonist of this episode that we follow quite closely. Interesting fact, Stephen Moffat actually wanted to make her a future companion, but the actress who plays her actually declined. We see the adventure through her eyes. People she meets get zapped back in time, and then she sees them old, decrepit, dying in hospital. And it's sad, and it's scary, because the Doctor isn't there to save the day. The Doctor's also been zapped back in the past, which makes the atmosphere for this episode so much better.
I'm listening, and don't patronise me because people have died and I'm not happy. Tell me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
A great example of this episode being darker in tone and how it's portrayed is through the eyes of the character of Billy Shipton. Sally Sparrow meets a man called Billy Shipton who gets accidentally zapped back by the Weeping Angels. We then catch up forward with him about 5 minutes later for Sally Sparrow as an old dying man, and he's got a message from the Doctor for her.
You told me all those years ago that we'll only meet again this one time. On the night I die.
This is such a sad and somber scene, and of course, especially modern Who, it doesn't face away from sad and somber topics and styles in episode creation, but Blink really stands out for me as one of those episodes that tackles that heavily. In my opinion, what makes this episode so iconic is that it is a Doctor-like story, blended with one of the scariest villains ever brought to Doctor Who, mixed with an emotional sad tone. And it makes for an incredibly scary episode. If it wasn't for the fact that it's a Doctor-like episode, I genuinely don't think the concept of Blink would work at all. I don't think it would come across as it did, and I don't think it would be an iconic story, and I personally don't think it would have rocketed the Weeping Angels as one of the best villains in Doctor Who. I don't personally agree that Blink is the best episode of Doctor Who. A lot of people would disagree with me there, but I got my own gripes with the episode. But I do personally believe it's one of the most iconic Doctor Who episodes of the modern era. The average viewer of Doctor Who and the non-viewer of Doctor Who know of this episode Blink and know of the Weeping Angels. And I personally put this down to some of Stephen Moffat's best writing as a writer of the show and the next showrunner. Of course, there's a lot of timey-wimey shenanigans that for some viewers it might be hard to follow, but it's what makes this story such a good episode and still a Doctor Who episode to its core. It's great. And even for people that don't particularly like the episode Blink, because I can see both sides, it set up one of the best villains in Doctor Who. One of the best recurring villains in the show's history, the Weeping Angels. It gave us a brand new fresh lease of life, and without this episode we probably wouldn't have seen the Weeping Angels in the form that they take currently, and that would have been a shame.
Of course, a stone can't kill you either, but then you turn your head away. Then you blink. And oh yes, it can.
And for me, that's what makes it so iconic. It introduced to us the Weeping Angels, and it gave us a great story with great characters that we really shouldn't care about, but we end up caring about. This isn't the best Doctor Who episode ever. It isn't the most exciting Doctor Who episode ever. It's just a good episode, and an iconic one at that.